Hello and welcome to Quick Actions Audio. And today we've got something a bit different because you've got Jermaine with me again, and we're going to be talking about diversity in English cricket. And as you can tell from our accent, we obviously live in England, so we're not going to comment on the other nations like South Africa, Australia, because I'm sure there's interesting conversations to be had there too. But with a lot of things going on around kind of Black Lives Matter and emphasis on diversity, we thought it'd be good to have a conversation about it, and see if anything can be done to encourage more people from different ethnic minorities into English cricket. And even if it is a debate, maybe it's not even a question. Maybe there is lots of ethnic representation in English cricket. But let's have a chat about it. And we've got Jermaine here. So yeah, hi Jermaine, how are you doing? And what's your thoughts? You got any initial thoughts on what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, hi everyone. Yes, doing well, Dev. So yeah, I agree. I think it's a good topic to discuss. Especially in England, where there has been a prominent rise in sort of different sort of players and from different backgrounds. So I mean, the county circuit in particular is becoming quite interesting now, isn't it? And yeah, it's quite a significant difference from about 15 to 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good point because when you think back to the early 2000s, the players that come to mind, ethnic minority backgrounds wise, there's not many. I can think of Nasser Hussain, obviously, who was the captain around that era. There was also O.A. Shah. There was Vikram Solanki. Was there a few others? I'm trying to think who else was there. Can you think of ones?
So yeah, I can remember maybe Saqib Mahmood or
Yeah,
Sajid Mahmood even. Monty Panesar was there. You
yeah,
know, um,
Rapara
maybe
as well.
even Papara, yeah, but even half maybe I mean half sort of English players made like Nasser Hussain, Mark Prakash, you know, Ronnie Irani, those type of players that were not that were sort of half class as such.
Yeah, the mix. There were a few kind of different ethnic groups and stuff, but the thing I find with it is, I still feel as though in kind of club cricket and uh, maybe the grassroots level, if you look at village level cricket, I don't know if there's all that much ethnic representation. I think it's increasing, but it does feel to me as though it's if you look at if you for those people watching, England is a very diverse, multicultural country. Certain parts of the country, in particular, are very diverse. And if you go to places like Birmingham and pockets of London, and if you go to northern parts of Manchester and Bradford and these kind of places, you do see lots of passion for the sport amongst Asians, and Asians are very good at the sport, and they have a massive fascination. They watch the cricket a lot, and they follow their teams really closely as well when it comes to World Cup and big events. But it feels to me as though if you look at all that passion and all that volume of cricket that's played amongst those ethnic minorities, particularly kind of the Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani communities, I do sometimes look at the team even at now, and I think, well, there's one or two names. There's Hasib Hamid. There's a few names, but it feels as though there could be more still. But do you think that's me being a bit harsh, or is that something with the system that could be done to try and get more filtered through to the top? Is there some kind of bias towards choosing different, towards not choosing certain players? Is there a bit of bias? I don't know. What do you think on that?
Um, it's quite a difficult sort of a sort of topic to fully answer as such because I purely stick by the principle. I mean, if you're good enough, you should just be playing. And if you are, a sort of British national citizen, doesn't really matter. If you're not, your heritage is not sort of English as such. You should just be picked based on your ability. In terms of grassroots levels, I mean, even 20 years ago, it's been the same, isn't it? I mean, you just go through the rankings, isn't it? You just go through the development stages, second team, first team, and just progress. So I don't really know if there is anything else that can be done because a good example would be Hasib Ahmed, who made his debut for England at 19. So he was good enough, right? He was good enough. So I think England are very good. Like, they are quite good, diversifying and letting everyone have a chance for playing for England.
Yeah, and I suppose that should be the case, really, because as I say, England is a very diverse country and it's full of different um, communities, and that's what really helps the country prosper because there's so many different ethnic communities. And as I say, the Indians, the Bangladeshis, and the Pakistanis, they predominantly represent a large proportion of the interest amongst ethnics in cricket in the country. But I suppose for me, just thinking back to when I was a kid in England, and I remember what it was like a bit because you did, as you say, it was quite a structured way to get to the top, wasn't it, with England? Because as you say, it's kind of village cricket. If you're good, you get into a good club team, then you get into regional county teams, and then you can make it into maybe under 19s and so on. So it is quite structured in this country with cricket, and just thinking, I think there's an element of talent, but there's also an element of integration and fitting into the team. And I think if you're, I think if you're, culturally quite uh, integrated and well connected with your peers and colleagues, and you socialize and you go out and you enjoy having, you enjoy partying and getting with the banter and stuff. I think that helps because it can make you become captain and you can become well known in the team and you can progress. Your name becomes more famous. But I think if you're maybe a little bit quiet, or if you're a little bit shy or reserved, or if you're not all that sociable and you don't go partying, or even if you don't drink, for instance, because there's large ethnic communities that don't drink alcohol as well. If you don't drink, or there's a possibility of feeling a little bit left out potentially, and I don't think it's the case that everyone makes conscious effort to integrate everyone because some people don't have confidence and they don't feel as comfortable integrating. So do you think there's an element of it's not like a bad discrimination, but do you think there's a little bit of bias because if you're like the popular kid and you socialize and you integrate. Whereas if you're from a different background, maybe you don't do that and you kind of get left behind. Do you think there's an element of that as well?
Yeah, there is. I mean, of course, you have to fit in with the culture, isn't it? Even at Colts level, and when you go into, say, under 17s, under 18s, 19s, 20s. I mean, you always need to sort of socialize, right, with your teammates. And I mean, I do agree. Those who have actually not resided in England since birth, and even just in general, those who are from a sort of different culture, different religion as such. but are actually British nationals. So yeah, they would stick to what they know and stick to what they follow. So that could cause a bit of a divide easily, isn't it? So that's sort of that can act as a barrier. But I think as a professional sort of athlete and like a professional sport, I think there are a lot of things and activities that can be done to break the ice with this sort of thing. So I think it's just probably best in everyone's interest if they you know can just sort of cooperate and just get involved at all times, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the ideal scenario if everyone cooperates and integrates and gels people together. But I feel as though it doesn't always seem to happen in teams. I think there's a lot of right words being said. There's a lot of points that people raise about equal, diversity, equal ops and stuff. But I think in practice, that I feel as though that is often quite a big barrier. I think because as I said, if you're not kind of familiar with British culture and you're not from the country, uh, there is potential to feel a bit isolated. And I think there was an article on Cricinfo. I'm not sure if anyone watching has seen it, but it was on. I think Jason Gillespie was talking a bit about some racism. Uh, or I don't know if Jason Gillespie experienced it or somebody experienced it, and Jason Gillespie, I think, commented on it about Yorkshire County, and I think there was a player who commented about some abuse or racial, uh, some racial comments that he experienced whilst playing for Yorkshire. So it's disappointing. There is no. I think Jason Gillespie mentioned it's disappointing, and I think it is sad. And I think that kind of story, when you read about that, you do realize that it's. I mean, it's easier said than done sometimes, and I think I think there's always a kind of there appears to be a bit of a natural inclination towards the people who naturally integrate to kind of propel them to the top, and they're very talented. Some of them probably get a bit left behind if they're different. And I think it's not even the race side. It's also kind of, if you look a bit different in terms of your body weight as well, anything that can discriminate you from the rest of the team, I think that is unfortunately something that can push you down a bit in the ranks, can't it? Because I think Samit Patel is a good example actually, because Samit Patel was a good player and he was obviously of ethnic background, Indian. He's a good player. He played for England a few games, but I think it wasn't. The thing with him was there was a little bit of fitness as well that came into the equation, because this is when England were trying to be the next big ODI team, and so yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I think there's an element of trying to get the team well connected and integrated, and you do that by probably having players that get along with each other and do well. But as you say, your background shouldn't be a barrier, but I think it can be potentially.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's very true. But I think it's quite sad, isn't it? If I mean, when people can't really see the bigger picture as such. But in terms of people sort of discriminating for things like that, as you say, like fitness and things like that, weight and all that, you know, yeah, I mean that as a sports person and representing your nation is probably something that you should actually take into account and take it quite seriously because at the end of the day you're representing the nation, right? So for things like that, I think that's understandable if you're getting a bit of stick for things like being lacking much fitness and just not having eating well and things like that. So, but yeah, I think yeah, some things are just uncontrollable, isn't it? I mean, and I think there are plenty of examples as well, isn't it? I mean, um, maybe even Marty Panesar coming into the equation. Um, you know, um, yeah, quite a few examples, isn't it, of a lot of diversity.
Yeah, and the thing with Monty Python is a very good example because he opened up quite a lot about his issues that he found with his mental health side of things, and he was obviously a very talented bowler. But I, when I was a kid watching England play, I always remember Monty Python as being kind of the standout guy. He was a little bit kind of it came across a little bit on his own, a bit. People used to tease him a bit. He was the one that all the banter was thrown at for his fielding. Uh, and there was always chanting, wasn't there, from the Barmy Army of things like there's only Monty and all that. So yeah, I think Monty Python is a good example because he was. I think it's hard to distinguish between whether it's a team issue of not being able to integrate the player in, or is it the player that's created his own issues and is struggling to integrate? I think, as you say, the best situation is everyone should treat everyone equally, and there should be no kind of uh, there shouldn't be any kind of band. Well, you can have banter, but there shouldn't be any kind of fierce aggression or you shouldn't be making a certain player feel isolated or different. And if you've got players potentially like Montepanes or anyone else who's feeling a little bit isolated or under pressure and stress, you should probably go as far as possible to try and integrate them more, shouldn't you? And try and include them because maybe more could have been done there. I don't have all that much knowledge about what happened, but it feels as though his career was unfortunately cut short.
Yeah, I mean, there's been several sort of documentaries on Monty Python, even the film, right? Patty House. But referring back to a documentary, I mean, what I understood was obviously there wasn't a sort of willingness for Monty Python to improve on his skill set, and there may have been some issues with well, I think some family issues as such, possibly with like marriage and things like that. That was highlighted in the documentary, and yeah, I mean that's the point, isn't it? I mean, the things cultural wise for marriage to get married at the age he got married, which I think he actually claimed he was too young to get married, and then I think yeah. So with Palliser, I think he just sort of fell down the pecking order, and then you had the sort of re-emergence of Graham Swan at the time as well, who is arguably England's greatest ever spinner. So I think it was a combination of things as well. So,
Yeah.
but I think it did come down to just not wanting to have more variety to his craftsmanship.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a multitude of factors with Pencil. But just in terms of diversity, then, how do you think England can get more diversity in? Do you think that is even a question? Do you think England is at the most it can be team wise diverse, or do you think there's more that could be done to get more ethnic groups into the national team?
So I mean, you would say, I mean, the majority of the England squad now are from sort of different sort of ethnicities as such, aren't they? I mean, you've got Ben Stokes, who's from New Zealand. You got both the Currans that are of Zimbabwean heritage. Um, there's a whole list. You got Chris Jordan, Jofra Archer, who are originally from the Caribbean. So there's a lot of I think they have got a lot of sort of diversity and ethnicities as such, and that's just I think that's on the increase. To be honest, I think that's been ever since say around 2010. I think that has gone up significantly from what it
Mm.
used to be.
Yeah, I think it has increased, but I'm just thinking more in terms of ethnic groups, a bit like kind of Indians, Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, those, if your heritage is from the subcontinent, just thinking to the test team, is there many from that heritage?
No, the only ones I would probably say is Moeen Ali and previously Adil Rashid. Um, and other than that, there's not actually anyone of recent times, is there? I mean, you got that Saqib Mahmood or Masood who plays for the one day squad.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's yeah, in terms of that sort of group, I don't think there has been many over the last 5 years, to be quite honest.
No, exactly. I think that's kind of tailed off a bit, that heritage. I think Arag Rapara obviously is a good example, and Hasib Hamid recently, who we spoke about. But I think, I wonder if do you think there's an element of, often you get, people from that heritage, Asian heritage, Indians in particular, sometimes Pakistanis as well. They tend to go for the more academic professions. They go for being doctors and engineers and secure, isn't it? Secure careers and jobs, pharmacists, uh, secure stability, and they don't maybe pursue their interests and passions of playing cricket because potentially they think that they're going to face hurdles and an extra challenge getting to the top because of the way they are. Do you think there's no of that? I think that could be the case.
Yeah, I think that is quite true because what historically I don't think like many say from that background can sort of maybe look up to anyone really in the sporting arena, right? So there's such a probably a handful of people from that ethnicity background that have got to the elite level of sport, and so they really haven't got much to aspire to, right? So um, they would, you know, generally just tend to go towards those professions, isn't it? As the ones you said. So, and that's applicable to more sports than just cricket, right? Even football, rugby, Formula One. There's not many sort of sports people of that ethnicity and background that people can look up to, isn't it?
Definitely, and I think that's very good what you mentioned. Good point about role models as well, because yeah, if you got good role models, then you may aspire to focus on that career option. For instance, Moeen Ali, he's probably a very good role model for the local community where he came from, because I think he did a piece on Sky Sports where he was talking about his upbringing, and I think those kids that live in that community, they probably look up to him and think this is the kind of guy that I want to be when I'm older, and I think, yeah, I think the previous generation didn't have that, as you say. So yeah, it seems as though diversity will increase more and more then, doesn't it? I think over the next
Yeah,
probably 20, 30 years or so, however long cricket
that's
goes
right.
on for.
Because
Um,
even with Moeen Ali as such, I mean, he actually had his like, brother and cousin to look up to, didn't he? He had Kabir Ali and he had Kadir Ali, his brother, to look up to, really. So he had role models that had already made it into the
yeah,
national team to look up to. So yeah, but as you say, yeah, over the next 20 years, it should get better, really. But as you said previously, it's literally all down to grassroots and cults level. isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the other thing on the culture side of things, an interesting point is as time goes on and you get a second generation Asians living in this country, and you'll get third generations in the following generation. Obviously, they get more and more integrated, and they become more and more connected with being part of England, and I think then when that happens, as time goes on, it becomes less and less of a question. Whereas, if you're looking at, if you're standing in, if it's year 2000 and you're talking about this, it's a different story to 2030, where you have grandkids who are completely, completely English. Uh, there's no question of doubt that they it doesn't even exist as a question because those kids in the next generations will become completely intertwined with the culture, and you won't get those issues of feeling a bit left out or potentially discriminated against in the dressing room with other players. So it's a natural thing, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, exactly. It is natural. But I mean, let's see. I think going forward, selectors, selectors. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really. I mean, the squad that England have at the moment. I mean, I can't see it being argued. I can't see any argument being there just because of someone's ethnicity or background. I reckon that the 11 they've got now, especially in the test team, they're the best that they could probably get. So irrespective of being Asian or or anything, Irish, Caribbean, Scottish, whatever, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose that's true, but you just think that when you look at club cricket, if we were to go through the whole of England and go to all the club teams and all the village teams, you do feel as though surely there must be some extremely good talent that isn't English per se. It may well be or Indian heritage or Caribbean heritage or something, and then that's why we're having this debate really or conversation, isn't it, about are we missing, is there anything being missed, and is there anything that can be done to encourage, do you think, to drive more uh, diversity at that level? Is there something, because the international, very true, I think the international team is very diverse, but I don't know if the reality of the situation is that here at club cricket and village cricket is it really as diverse that is there something that can be done to
But I think,
encourage it?
but yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is you may have all the talent in the world, but when you're like, start cricket at the age of like 7 until you're like, say, 17, 18, but then, as you said, historically and stereotypically as such, when you get to 18, you always be looking at, I need to go to university, right? Rather than pursue a sporting career. So,
Mm.
and I would say 95% of the time, a family from maybe an Asian background would actually just decide to go to university rather than just get like a sports scholarship or apprenticeship or something like that. So I think it comes down to that particular age. When you're around between 16 to 18, you gotta be mentally actually have that desire and that sort of grit and sort of certainty that you want to pursue this and that you're going to actually make it, isn't it? So I think it's just being at that age. It might be good to have mentors or coaches that can clearly guide youngsters to make the right decision.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's almost a bit like it goes back to that point, as you say, regardless of what other things we talk about, it's always the safety net, isn't it? When you're 18, do you really want to risk it? Because it's a long road, and if you don't have those role models to look up to, and if you don't know of many Asians making it big, or ethnic minorities making it big in England, English cricket, then it's safer, isn't it, as you say, to just do pharmacy or optometry or something and go to university and get 4 years or 3 years out of the way and have a secure job. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it goes back to that, but I think the encouragement is there because it's slowly increasing, isn't it? And I think, as you say, if you look at the 2020 team, there's a lot of representation there because you've got Chris Jordan, you've got, as you say, you've got Archer, you've got Adil Rashid, you've got Moeen Ali. So yeah, very very diverse international team, and maybe it will over the next 20, 30 years. I think kids might make different career choices.
Yeah, especially yeah, and even because of recent times and maybe the pandemic and things like that, people might just become even more braver and just want to just pursue their actual dreams rather than just being stuck in a sort of reality that that they don't really want as such, isn't it? So maybe
Yeah.
due to the current times, they might just have more courage to just pursue cricket.
Mm. Very, very, very true. I think that is the case with many people around the world at the moment. There's a lot of people revisiting their life situation with COVID-19 around and thinking they want to do something else. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I think England is overall a good place to be if you're, if you're from a different heritage or ethnic background and you want to make it big. I think England's obviously a very good place to be, isn't it? Because of the team. I think we're in agreement that the international team, particularly, is extremely diverse. Um, so overall, it feels as though it's pretty diverse, doesn't it? The team at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite a good sort of mixture of diversity. You got the England captain, who's England one day captain, who's Irish. You got so many. I mean, even as I said before, it's like Stokes, the two Currans. They're all from a different heritage. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I would say probably less than 50% just born and bred in England.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is quite diverse, but I think it's been an interesting conversation because we've covered a lot of interesting points, and I think the point around role models was very good, and I think that is true. And I think over the next many years, I think we'll see that change. But I also thought that point around the fact that integration in the team is probably the main point because if you're it's not about your race or color, but if you're someone who doesn't integrate with the team, or if you feel a little bit left out, you may lose out on opportunities to progress in the team and professionally with the sport. So I think that is a good point, and I think that is important because I think that is a barrier. I think with certain ethnic uh, groups. I think. Um, but yeah, I think overall it's been a good chat. Have you got any other points that that you think we missed out?
No, I think we've covered it quite well, and it'll be interesting to see the next even 5 to 10 years how
Yeah,
diversified the England national team and even the county circuit will be.
yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see, and hopefully there's more encouragement amongst ethnic groups, and hopefully that not only encouragement, but hopefully we continue to see a good selection and group of different heritage players coming in to the England fold because it's an exciting time to be part of England. And yeah, let's see. I think that's I think that's it for me as well. Really, there's not too much more to add. But it'd be interesting to see the comments as well. And thanks all for the subscriptions as well, because I know that our channel is increasing with the subscriptions on a daily basis. So very grateful for that, and do continue to watch our videos and subscribe and like and comment, because we've got lots of good ideas. So let us know if you want us to focus on anything in particular. We've got some live videos as well, haven't we, Jermaine, coming up soon? Plenty more.
Yep. Yep, exactly. So yeah, just like the video, subscribe, and yeah, more content to look forward to.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, thanks, Jermaine, and cheers all for watching.
Thank you. Bye.